Welcome back to AM Northwest. You know, a majority of women with ADHD don't even know they have it, but they're struggling with symptoms. Here with much needed help, we welcome the author of ADHD for Smart Women, certified ADHD coach, Tracy Otsuka. Tracy, great to have you on the show today. First, let's talk about your personal motivation for putting together all this information for everyone. Because it's very personal.
Yeah. Well, I wrote this book for the 75% of women who have ADHD and don't know it yet and think that they're broken. What we know is that for most women, it takes 3.2 visits with clinicians to actually figure out, that it's ADHD and get the proper diagnosis. So I wanted them to know that they are not broken, they are not disordered, they are not defective. They just have a different brain that operates using a different system, kind of like Macs in a Windows-driven world.
Okay, but you were diagnosed with it, right?
I was late in life after my son, who was diagnosed at 12, which is it's called the mommy factor, and it's very common. We don't even know we have ADHD until one of our kids is diagnosed with it, and typically it's a boy, not a girl.
Okay, and why? First of all, why is that? Why is it typically a boy, you think, or why is it? Is it because the symptoms manifest in a more obvious way?
Well, when you think of ADHD, you think of a hyperactive 10-year-old boy. He's climbing the walls. He's being annoying to everyone around him, from his parents to his teachers to his coaches. With a girl, it often, not always, but often shows up differently. So 2 times the number of girls are diagnosed with inattentive ADHD than boys. And so what that looks like is the absent-minded child in the back of the classroom in her own daydreams, doesn't even realize she's in class until she's called on. And it's like, oh, what? I'm in school. So what happens with girls is they often internalize their symptoms rather than externalize them. So boys externalize them, they're annoying, they get the services. Girls internalize them, meaning they beat themselves up, they're constantly wondering what's wrong with them, they're trying to keep up, they're masking. And so what ends up happening is they get diagnosed with anxiety and depression instead.
Oh.
And sometimes there's anxiety and depression there, but often it's the ADHD that underlies the anxiety and depression. So you treat the ADHD and you treat the anxiety and depression. Now, the other thing is that girls are often diagnosed with ADHD much later in life, typically around puberty, after puberty, and that is because we have discovered that estrogen modulates dopamine. And dopamine is what they believe our brains don't make enough of. And they don't know, is it our brains don't make enough of it, or is it that we process it differently? So yes, the symptoms show up very differently in girls most of the time, so they're just missed.
Yeah, I understand that when you had a meeting with a doctor, he kind of dismissed you about having ADHD, or thought it was because...
I had many meetings, so I was more than the 3.2. I met with my general doctor, my gynecologist. I met with a naturopath. I met with a hormone specialist. They all missed it. I was even tested for Parkinson's. And it wasn't until, and I even had a psychologist tell me that, oh, I'm half Asian. It's an Asian thing. You're just too big of a perfectionist. The bloom comes off the rose. It's just what happens.
Now, see, you say that very casually. That's like hugely shocking to hear. That a doctor would say that to you. And the bloom comes off the rose. Whoa. He wouldn't have been alive if he had said it to me.
Right, exactly. What a way to live.
Yeah. So
we're supposed to just, okay, this is just how it is.
Yeah. So for those of us who are older women and those who may have ADHD, what should we pay attention to? You talk about finances, or kind of women struggle with finances oftentimes, and when they have ADHD.
Yes, absolutely. And so what I want to say, though, is for the audience members, and I'll get right into finances through that, but
Sure.
For the audience members that are thinking, oh my gosh, this isn't me. This has nothing to do with me. And there's a lot of us because we don't know what ADHD looks like. Let me just tell you the 3 telltale signs that you've probably never heard of before. The first one is unexplained underachievement. If you have a woman or a girl who is just, you can tell how bright she is, but she just cannot achieve at the level that she should be able to achieve at, number one. Number two, consistent inconsistency. So for my son, this looked like A's and F's in the same subject in the same week. So you never quite know when your brain is going to show up, right? Your reliable brain.
Okay.
And the third one is typical productivity tips and tricks. They just don't work for you. Things like just do it. Well, if we could just do it, we would have just done it, right?
Right.
So yes, so what ends up happening is we can struggle with money. And when you think about it, we struggle with organization, with attention, focus, things that are boring. When we are interested, we're all in and we hyper-focus and we can learn better and faster than anyone. But when we are not interested, you know, we can't get out of bed. So if you think about finances and money, we also have no sense of time, right? We kind of like to just sort of float and do things when we feel like doing them. And that is because this lack of time. So if you think about time and you think about numbers, they're very, you know, they make sense in terms of they're certain, they're limited, and our brains are actually random and open-ended and spontaneous and creative. We're also optimists. So we always think that, oh, we have more time. So you can imagine if you have to pay a bill and you have no sense of time, and you also think you have more time than you actually do, often we will not pay a bill, not because we don't have the money, but because we literally just forget. So what I always suggest, we're also mission driven, right? We're really generous. And so we don't care about money as much. And we're impulsive. So we're 4 times more likely to impulse spend.
Wow. What you say, though, that you feel like your ADHD is your superpower.
I do. I do. Because if you think about ADHD, probably the most important thing or the most important superpower that I have of it is creativity. So it's ideation, and scientists say this about the ADHD brain as well. So it's, you know, it's called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. But there really isn't a deficit of attention. There is a surplus of attention. We notice everything, all the ideas, all at the same time, which is what can make us feel like we're all over the place. But in truth, we take all those ideas and we put them together in really novel, creative, different ways. So we end up producing a new widget or starting a new business or really solving a problem in a different way than other people have thought of, you know, solving that problem.
Or writing a book. And the book is titled ADHD for Smart Women. Thank you so much, Tracy. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You
it was
bet.
a pleasure.
All right, we'll be right back with more AM Northwest.